Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we have another I say crew crime all the time. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another true crime video. This video is going to be really different from most of the true crime videos I do because it's like the most unusual crime and idea for a crime that you could think of. I mean, it's really bizarre how this whole thing goes down, and I think there's going to be a lot of different opinions at the end of this video. This is going to be one of those ones where you guys are going to decide either way what you think, and I am just going to be thrilled to hear your thoughts because this case has been driving me nuts. Today I'm going to be telling you guys a story about an adorable little boy named Cooper Harris. This is Cooper's mom, Leanna. She was raised actually by a single mother in Demopolis, Alabama, and she grew up really introverted. She was kind of a goody two-shoes actually. She thought about being a nurse, but honestly her biggest goal in life was having a family and having a child. When she was 20 years old, she met a man named Ross Harris, and things with her and Ross got serious really quick. They were already talking about marriage within a year of dating. Ross Harris was born in 1980 in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He graduated from the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. He received a bachelor's degree in commerce and business administration. Once they were married, they wanted to have kids pretty much right away, but they really struggled to get pregnant, as so many people do. I mean, infertility is incredibly common and very difficult and frustrating for parents. Eventually they moved to Atlanta. Ross was a web developer for Home Depot and they moved for his work. And Leanna was a dietitian, and so she got a job in the area as well. And then a miracle happened. They finally got pregnant. This is their adorable son, Cooper Harris. He was born on August 8th of 2012. Leanna said that Ross was extremely excited to be a dad. I mean, overjoyed in fact, just loved being a father. He was extremely involved and helped her a ton. Really let her be able to rest, would get up in the middle of the night, never complained about it, just was enjoying being a father. It was a completely normal morning on June 18th of 2014. Ross was in charge of bringing Cooper to daycare every day on his way to work. It was just their routine. And then Leanna would pick him up on her way home. So on that day, Leanna left work around 4 p.m. She headed straight to Cooper's daycare to pick him up. And there's all this camera footage of her. She looks completely normal going in there like any other day to get him. However, when she went in there, she went up to the teacher that was, running Cooper's class, and she said that Cooper wasn't there and was never dropped off that morning. I mean, can you imagine how freaked out you would be as a mother? You would instantly go into panic, and she did, although her behavior, she was very calm for someone in this type of situation. I mean, me personally, I'd be a nervous wreck. I would be like I'd be crying. She stayed very calm and stoic, but maybe in a situation like that, you would just feel that you would need to, stay focused and on track to be able to solve the situation or come up with a solution or fix things, if that makes sense. But people were very critical about her reaction, that she didn't seem as concerned on the video cameras. But how much can you tell on a security camera anyway? Her first thought was that someone kidnapped Cooper from daycare. But then her second thought was, and she said this out loud, maybe Ross left him in the car. That's kind of a weird thing to say, very specific. She tried to call Ross over and over again and he wasn't answering his phone, so she called his office. So now it was 5:09 p.m. She couldn't get a hold of Ross. There was no sign of Cooper and she was left completely confused. So Leanna decided to go to Ross's office, and when she got there, everyone in the lobby was watching the TV.
A 22-month-old child died in the back parking lot here. She mentioned apparently had been in the back of a very hot car.
Now, if that was me at this point, I would be so freaked out, so upset, so scared. I would seriously have to be sedated. I can't even imagine the fear, especially not knowing for sure. But I mean, when all those things are happening, you can't find your husband, and you see that on the news, you start connecting the dots, and I'm sure at that point she already knew. Finally, her phone rang, and it was a detective, and he said to just stay where she was. He was gonna come to her, and when he got there, he said this.
There'll be no easy way to tell you this. Your child is deceased. I'm very sorry to have to tell you that.
So let's back up a little bit here and talk about how this whole day went down from the beginning. Around 7:15 a.m., Leanna says that she kissed Cooper goodbye and went to work. Ross put Cooper in the car and they left, and they actually went to Chick-fil-A first to get some breakfast. There's even video footage of them in Chick-fil-A. Everything looks fine. Cooper looks happy. Ross looks happy. I mean, nothing out of the usual.
I would say completely to the contrary. I looked at the video and when I first saw it, and I thought it seemed very out of the ordinary. In particular, the way that he was introducing Cooper to some of the workers there, and how they eventually described it to us as being almost like he was putting on a show, almost like he was going out of his way to do that.
But then Ross did something really, really weird. He usually would turn left at a specific intersection to take Cooper to daycare on the way to work. But on that day, he went straight through the intersection, going right past Cooper's daycare. And it wasn't even that far from Chick-fil-A to his work. It was literally just up the street a little bit, like a couple minutes. He went into his office parking lot with Cooper still in the back. And 30 seconds later, he exited the vehicle, locking it and leaving Cooper outside in the parking lot in the hot sun. Now, I wanted to do this video specifically because we're going into these summer months, and I know many of you probably understand that you can't leave someone or a pet in a hot car, but I just, for the sake of it, want to remind people of how hot cars can get. I don't think some people realize that it's like literally turns into an oven. It's a giant piece of metal, dude, and the sun heats it up until the point where it is extremely uncomfortable. Check out this video clip of a doctor trying to be in a car and experience what that would be like.
So, I'm your pet, and I'm now in the car. I've got all 4 windows cracked down about 1 inch. So, let's start a timer and let's see exactly how hot it gets in here. 94 degrees. So, it's pretty hot in here, but we're just getting started. 100 degrees already, and I can tell you that it is stifling in here. 15 minutes now. And it's about 110 in my car. If I were a little dog left out here, maybe I'm barking, I'm very nervous. I can only imagine what the core body temperature must be at this point. 25 minutes, 113 degrees, 30 minutes in a parked car with the windows cracked. The temperature right now is about 116.
Now this is the same for animals as it is for humans. At 4:15 p.m., Ross left work, went into his car, got in like everything was normal, and drove out of the parking lot. He seems to still not have been aware that his son was in the back because he continued to drive a full 1.5 miles before pulling over after he realized that Cooper was dead in the back. He got out of his car and started frantically asking people for help, and someone called the police after seeing him doing this, and this is the 911 call.
Onlookers.
Tell me exactly what happened.
The guy pulled in the parking lot and the baby's not breathing, it doesn't look like.
Some other person got Cooper, laid him on the ground, and started to try to do CPR on him. Meanwhile, Ross was doing nothing, wasn't trying to resuscitate his son at all. When the police got there, they described Ross as acting extremely unusual. They said that someone else was giving his son CPR and Ross was just walking around the parking lot on his cell phone.
Saying, what have I done? What have I done? Laid him on the ground, started doing CPR, trying to resuscitate him.
When they arrived, someone else was doing CPR to Cooper. He was talking on the phone to somebody. Officer came up and yelled at her.
What? Hold on. Hold on, my son died.
With Ross's behavior being so strange, he was immediately considered to be a suspect and placed in a police car. I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good bullshit detection radar, and this guy just screams bullshit to me. He goes back and forth between being frantically upset and almost to the point where it sounds fake. Like, you know when someone's fake crying or just trying to get attention and you can kind of tell? I mean, in my opinion, that's what it sounded like to me.
He was sitting in the back of the squad cart, alternately weeping or very distraught, and then sort of looking around to see. In their mind, they felt like he was putting on a performance.
What have I done? Oh my God! Oh my God! What have I done? Oh boy!
Next minute, he's calm.
I can't even imagine how I would be, and I certainly would never calm down for a moment. I would be on top of them. I'd be pushing people away. I mean, I just can't imagine walking away on your phone and being more concerned with yourself. And then get this. He started complaining that his handcuffs were hurting him and were too tight.
They're really hurting me.
And if you think complaining about your hands being in pain while your son is dead on the ground is bad, wait till you hear what he said next. Ross started complaining that the car was too hot, that he wasn't getting enough air back there. Are you kidding me? Do you know what you just put your son through? Are you serious? EA said that his behavior was completely out of the spectrum for normal in these types of cases. It was just not a typical reaction to finding out that your child died in the car and that it was your fault. However, the public quickly took his side, and actually I remember when this happened and I took his side too. When I heard about it, I instantly felt bad for him, thinking, oh my God, how terrible would you feel if you left your child? God, it must be a mistake. Like, that must be so horrible. And so people were on Ross's side from the beginning. And the thing about this is, I'm sure most of you know, this is not uncommon at all.
In a hot car for 4 hours.
5 hours. For 16 hours.
Really an unspeakable tragedy out here at the shopping mall on Acres Mill Road near Highway.
In many cases, these deaths seem to be the cause of a parent in a morning fog, forgetting a daycare drop, and that their child is still in the car when they park at work.
Investigators say the mom forgot her daughter was in the car while she went to work.
But police think something more sinister is at play with Ross Harris. Police bring him to Cobb County Police Headquarters to be questioned.
On average, 37 children die per year from being left inside of a hot car. This actually even has a name: forgotten baby syndrome.
Well, it seems unthinkable, absent-mindedly leaving a child behind. But truth be told, many parents do it, and now it has a name: forgotten baby syndrome.
Well, forgotten baby syndrome is our attempt to try to understand how it is that normal, attentive, and loving parents forget that their children are in the car with them. A survey was conducted in the US of a large number of parents, and it's remarkable that 25% of the parents who had children under 3 reported that they had actually forgotten that their children were in the car at some time during the drive.
This situation happens all the time, where a good, loving parent who loves their kids accidentally leaves them in the car, forgets that they're there, and tragically kills them. And a big part of this is obviously distraction, but also exhaustion. I mean, a lot of parents, new parents especially, are so tired. I mean, there's some babies that just don't sleep. They're up all night, and you're going to work as a zombie. You've slept 2 hours, had a screaming infant in your face, and a lot of parents end up getting kind of brain fogged, and they honestly do forget, and it's terrible. It ruins their lives. Can you imagine how you would feel? It's just horrible. They actually think that the parents create some type of artificial memory of dropping them off at daycare. So obviously Ross was brought directly to the station for questioning, and in there his behavior was just as sketchy. When he was first placed into the interrogation room, he started sobbing, like heavy sobs that don't sound genuine to me. And I could be wrong. I know I don't have any way to prove he wasn't actually crying, but I don't know about you guys. Tell me your thoughts on this. To me, it looked like a lot of faking and a lot of over-exaggerating, knowing that he was probably being filmed.
Oh, God.
Now, obviously, people do deal with grief very differently, so I'm not trying to be judgmental here, but I'm just saying it's unusual and odd the way he was acting. And then when they were interrogating him, he also mentioned that he had just seen a video about parents leaving their kids in cars.
I just watched news reports. There was a news report of a guy who did this, just like me. And now he's an advocate for when you park, you turn around and look again. And I've been doing that because the worst fear for me is to leave my son in a hot car.
It was super, super weird that he had just seen this a couple days before. So then Leanna got to the police station and went into the room with Ross. Neither of them were aware that they were being filmed or that they were being audio recorded.
My life is over. Not over, baby. Not over. I turned out of Chick-fil-A and I just went to work. Like it was nothing. He wasn't making a sound. I think he fell asleep.
He had some comfort for Leanna too.
Yes, I know that he's in heaven right now. I know he is. I know he is. He's playing with all the trucks in the room.
Now, people were really torn about Leanna's behavior in this room, and I don't know really what to fully think of it. First thing that she did when she saw Ross, knowing that he just, as she thought, accidentally killed her son. Whether it was an accident or not, you'd be angry, right? You'd be like, well, how could you do this? And she instantly went into this super nurturing, caring mode for him, asking if he was okay, rubbing his leg. And then she asked him if he said too much.
Did you say too much?
Detectives wondered what she meant. They came back into the room and told Ross he wasn't going home.
He's going to jail. He's being charged.
People are wondering, how did she stay that calm when her son just died in a hot car, suffocated, got hyperthermia? He told Leanna that he was worried about seeing Ross being taken out of the car because he was scared about what he would look like. And this kind of struck officers funny because they figured that seemed like he knew that he was already dead either way. And the public, being supportive of Ross and feeling sorry for him, was very confused about why he was being held. The public thought he just made a terrible mistake, but investigators were starting to think that he may have actually set this up and killed his child. 15 days later, Ross and Leanna went to court. Prosecutors immediately started talking about how this was not a typical case of a person leaving their child in a car on accident. First of all, the position of the car seat to Ross's seat were extremely close, only 6 inches away. Ross says that Cooper must have fallen asleep in the car ride, but that's kind of an unusual statement to make because they were just at Chick-fil-A and he was wide awake in the video recording. So did he fall asleep that quickly? Chick-fil-A was only half a mile from Ross's work. He would have had to fall asleep extremely quickly. And then probably the most damning evidence, in my opinion, Ross actually went back to his car around noon, opened the door of the car, I think to put light bulbs in it. And the weird thing about this is he never mentioned it to police. When detectives were searching his home for leads, they looked through his computer and they found in his video search history that same video that I showed you earlier in this video. Dr. Ernie Ward doing a demonstration of how hot a car can get on a warm day. He watched this video only 5 days before leaving his child in a hot car. Detectives also looked at Leanna. They thought that maybe her behavior could have been a little off, or maybe she had something to do with it. They also thought her reaction to finding out that her son was dead was very, very odd.
There's gonna be no easy way to tell you this. Your child is deceased.
Where's my husband?
When police spoke with her there, did they say anything of note about her reaction at the scene?
Her reaction at the scene, she didn't show any emotion when they asked her, or actually when they notified her of Cooper's death.
Leanna also made a statement at his funeral that was just a little odd. She said that Cooper was in a better place now, which is a really common thing to say, but she also said that if she was able to bring him back, she wouldn't, because she wouldn't want to bring him up into this messed up world. She said she was just coping and, saying what was on her mind, and that's how she really felt. She was so betrayed and so heartbroken. In my opinion, I don't think it was that unusual. So they ended up determining that there was honestly nothing that they could definitively prove that Leanna had any knowledge of this or planned her child's murder. The whole idea of her being in on this was dismissed, and trial continued for Ross. However, one of the biggest discoveries in this case happened a year after Ross was first arrested. After going through Ross's phone, they found out that he had been using this app. It's called Whisper. Some of you may have heard of it. It's an anonymous app where you can post things publicly or privately, but it's all anonymous. And he was using this messaging app on that morning with Cooper. He was actually talking to someone anonymously about how he wasn't happy in his marriage or being a father. And the last thing that he said to this person before locking his child in the car was, "I love my son and all, but we both need escapes." They also found out that Ross had been sexting various people that morning. He had been virtually and physically cheating on Leanna, and he was doing this with dozens of women, men, and underage girls. It turned out that Ross had been texting and messaging with over 30 different people, most of them women. So Ross would actually take pictures of Cooper every morning and send them to Leanna. He would do this as he was dropping him off at daycare, and 2 weeks before Cooper died, Ross stopped doing this. And with many of them, he exchanged comments about how he was unhappy with his marriage. And while Cooper was outside in the car dying, Ross was busy sending nudes to a total of 9 different women. A prostitute, a babysitter, a co-ed, his ex-girlfriend, other women that he would regularly sext with, and he even was sending nudes to a 15-year-old girl. So A+, buddy. During the trial, Leanna had to get up on the stand, and many people were shocked that she actually ended up sort of defending him.
I would agree that I did not know the depth.
Have you read the text messages that he sent to these other women?
No. I have no reason to have read them.
Okay. If he's saying foul things to a 15-year-old girl, you wouldn't think that that was something different than the way he portrayed himself to you?
I think it's horrible.
Did you know that was the afternoon he actually called a prostitute and went to have sex with her instead of being at home with you?
I didn't know that.
Humiliating as it was, she stuck it out for nearly 2 days of testimony.
How do you feel about your ex-husband?
He ruined my life. He destroyed my life. I'm humiliated. I may never trust anybody again the way that I did. If I never see him again after this day, that's fine.
Nothing further, Judge.
When it came to the cheating, she said that he had become a completely different person. She wouldn't ever have expected him to do that to her, and she was disgusted and devastated by that. Leanna thinks that even though he was a jerk and he was cheating and doing all this crazy shit, that he loved his son and that he would never actually kill him. Now, I think there's plenty of evidence to show that he could have purposely done this. However, I do think that it's possible that maybe he was just so distracted texting all these people and taking dick pics that he straight up actually did forget. But with the way the evidence looks and all of the other weird elements, I definitely lean in the direction of he did this on purpose. Leanna is completely convinced that the death was unintentional, although she pretty much despises Ross for all of this. And after 26 days of trial, 70 witnesses, 1,200 pieces of evidence, Ross was found guilty of all 8 counts, including felony murder, and was sentenced to life in prison plus 32 years. If he's innocent and he didn't purposely do this and it was an accident, then that's so crazy. But if he really did do this and that's the way it looks, I think that's well deserved. Leanna still says that she thinks the jury got it wrong. However, she understands that people kind of just need to close the book on this. When a child dies, someone's got to take responsibility, someone's got to take the blame, and Ross looked pretty damn bad. It's very interesting, but Ross and Leanna have never actually gotten to talk about Cooper dying, about the whole thing. They never got alone time to talk about any of that, so there hasn't really been any closure for her. She's had a terrible time with this. She's even contemplated taking her own life in the past. She says she's still grieving to this day over her son. This is so sad. This breaks my heart, but she still has a sippy cup that's like half filled on the table from where he had left it, and she will not move it. She won't let anyone touch it. She won't clean it. It just stays there. And she also got a tattoo of his footprint on her foot. On the bright side of this, Leanna has decided to dedicate her life to raising awareness about forgotten baby syndrome. I really want to know what you guys think. Do you think this was pre-planned by Ross, or could this have been a really bad mistake? I want to know your thoughts. As far as I'm concerned, I can't say 100% either way, but I just think there's too much evidence pointing in the direction of purpose, and at the end of the day, that's really what I feel happened. So anyway, I do want to know your opinions, so leave me a comment. That's it for me today, guys. I will talk to you next time.